Hey there Nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Underhive Wars. This is our series of Necromunda battle reports for our Dominion campaign, and this is battle report number 17. It is fought between my two friends, Warlord Ace of 911 with House Van Saar, versus my other friend Odeth of the Dustmen with his Chaos Cultist gang. So these two gangs will be throwing it down on a good old-fashioned gang fight with a standoff scenario, and these two gangs will be fighting for supremacy in our Sector 7 turf war. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what each of the gangs are bringing, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about the scenario rules real quick. This one is a standoff scenario. The objective is to take out as many of the enemy as possible. You earn 3 points for leaders, 2 points for champions, and 1 point for everyone else. Whoever has the most points by the end of the scenario ends up winning the scenario. For the rewards, for the credits, the winner earns D6 times 10 credits, while the loser earns D3 times 5 credits, and in a case there's a draw, both gangs earn D6 times 5 credits. For experience points, every fighter who takes place in the scenario earns 1 point of experience, while the gang leader a winning gang leader also earns 1 additional point. For reputation, the winner earns 2 points reputation, and both gangs receive 1 point reputation if they're fighting against each other for the very first time. This is the first time that 911 is fighting against the Dustmen. Both those gangs earn 1 point reputation. However, if any gang bottles out, they lose a point of reputation as well. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. Alright, so once again, my friends are playing on a 4x4 table. This time, my friend Warlord Ace with his 911 is located on the near side of the table, while my friend Odeth with the Dustmen are deployed on the far side of the table. And as you can see, we're also playing on a brand new 4x4 battle map from Frontline Gaming. That is the Asphalt map that we're using from that company. And it's a really good map to use. We really like the dimensions on this one, so hence we used it. So with the battle plan over with, because I really don't know what their plans are, because I'm just photographing the game, we go straight to deployment. Alright, so starting off with deployment for the Van Saar on the left-hand side, that is Maddox is his name. On the left-hand side, that is a ganger who's armed with a rad gun, and right behind him is Bust9, that is the gang's leader as well. And right next to them in that little fighting position, that is Tugs and Soldiers. Those are two gangers who are armed with body armor, with body gloves with flak armor, with last carbines, as well as last pistols. And that makes it the deployment here on the left-hand side for 911. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side, on the second floor of the Alexander's department store, that is Chopper. He is a gang champion who's armed with a rad cannon as well as a last pistol. And right next to him, I believe that is FNG. That is a juvie who's armed with... no, sorry, not FNG. That's Runedog. That's a juvie who's armed with flak armor, twin last pistols, as well as rad grenades. And on the far right-hand side, that is FNG. That is another juvie who's armed with twin last pistols. Right next to him is Mega Man, who's armed with a last sub-carbine and rad grenades. And right behind them, that's Tough Shakes. He was a ganger who's armed with a last pistol as well as a power knife. And that pretty much makes the deployment for the Van Saar on this battle report. Meanwhile, for the Dustmen on the left-hand side, we have the Nerf Herder in the back, as well as Nerf number 2. Those guys are armed with auto pistols. Right behind them on the right-hand side, that is Roar. That is the gang leader who's armed with a heavy stubber. And up front, that's Beaker, as well as the Oculoid, who are both Cultist Helots, who are armed with auto rifles. And on the far right hand side of the battlefield, on the top there, that is Hoodie, who's armed with an auto gun. He's on that gantry walkway. Right beneath him is a 3-man assault squad. That is Gazeter, Half-Face, as well as Sockhead. All 3 of those guys are armed with auto pistols as well as brutal close combat weapons, just mauls for the most part. On the far right hand side, that is Nerf number 1, who's been transformed to a Chaos Spawn since the last battle report. And the right hand side, that is their Cult Witch, that is Blood Razor. And with deployment over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 1, and my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so the very first thing we go with, the top of turn number 1, is House Van Saar. My friend takes his gang leader, Bust9, who then uses a Overseer ability onto Maddox. Maddox moves up twice, actually 4 times, doing 4 simple moves all the way to the base of the Slime River. That guy's armed with a rad gun, so it's kind of like a flamer template type weapon, so that's where he positions him there. And meanwhile, his leader stays exactly where he's located at because the Overseer ability is a double action. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, my friend then activates his Cult Witch, who manifests the Levitate ability, so he has +2 to his movement, and he also has the Fly special ability. He then also activates Nerf number 1, the Chaos Spawn, and both those guys move to the right-hand side of the Slime River, trying to get ready to cross that here in a second. So, my friend Warlord Ace then activates Soldiers, who takes aim with his last carbine and opens up directly onto Nerf number 1, but all he manages to do is just cause a wound for the most part, so not much really happens on that side. Meanwhile, Death then activates Roar, who then in turn activates Beaker as well as the Oculoid, and those three gang members spend a double movement moving across the Slime River as quick as they possibly can to put some pressure on the left-hand flank of the battlefield. At the same time, our friend also activates Chopper as well as Runedog. They try to open up with the, that rad cannon directly into the mob that's across from them, but unfortunately his shot goes wide and just scatters really bad, not much causing much of anything for that part. And for the rest of the battle port, it's just group activations. Well, not really so much group activations. That way I just took a photos after everybody moved all their individual units. Just to give you a little rundown what ended up happening, Gazer, the Half-Face, as well as Sockhead, all three of them make double movements towards that pile of rubble there in the center of the battlefield, so that way they can take some cover. At the same time, F&G, Mega Man, as well as CheapSkate, they all take double movements to the base of the culvert there at the end of the Slime River. And the Nerf Herder and Nerf number 2 make it across the Slime River as well to join with Beaker as well as Oculoid and Roar. And that pretty much makes it the end of turn number 1. Pretty uneventful. We skipped the end phase because no one went out of action. There were no injuries as well. And that pretty much makes it to the end of the turn. So as you can see, here's an overhead shot of the battlefield. My friend Death is trying to quickly assault the 911, trying to cross the battlefield as quickly as he possibly can. He's sending his forces on either flank as well as in the center to assault. At the same time, my friend Warlord Ace is also sending troops to intercept him both on the right-hand side as well as the left-hand side. And that pretty much ends turn number 1. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so this time around, my friend then activates Death. He gets to go first. He activates Roar, who then also in turn activates Beaker as well as the Oculoid. All those guys move across the Slime River as quick as they can and take up some cover there behind the balcony there on the right-hand side. Now, my friend Roar, he takes his gang leader who's armed with a heavy stubber. He really can't do much of anything because he's carrying an unwieldy weapon. However, Beaker as well as the Oculoid, they open up their auto guns directly into Maddox. Unfortunately for him, though, all of his shots ended up missing, so not much really happened for their shooting in that part. Meanwhile, my friend Warlord Ace then activates Bustin9, who actually spends a normal action to move it to the base of that gantry walkway. He also takes aim with his plasma last gun and actually opens up fire directly onto the Dustmen who are coming from the left-hand side. This time around, he decided to concentrate fire with his last gun, so all he did was just kind of pin the Oculoid is all he really did. Not much really came out of that one for the most part. Meanwhile, my friend Death decides to activate Nerf number 1 as well as Bloodrazor. They end up moving a double movement to the top of the culvert there for the Slime River on the far right-hand side. In response, Warlord Ace activates Chopper as well as the Runedog, and they both open up with their weapons directly into Bloodrazor as well as into Nerf number 1. And as you can see here, a massive blast template goes off because with the rad cannon used the 5-inch template, and it managed to hit both the Bloodrazor as well as Nerf number 1. And to make matters worse, all I ended up doing was pinning Bloodrazor. Now, if you're wondering why Bloodrazor is up on his feet and why he's not laying down, the reason why is because my friends couldn't get that miniature to lay down face up, and it kept on rolling off the top of the culvert, so that's why he's still standing. But that guy's supposed to be pinned, just in case you're wondering. However, he does put the last wound onto Nerf number 1, and Nerf number 1 rolls a serious injury, so because he's laying face down on the ground, which is a really bad spot to be in, because if my friend Warlord Ace sends in any of the units to charge directly into Nerf number 1, they can finish him off with a coup de grace, and then start assaulting its Bloodrazor. So Death does try to activate Hoodie, who tries to open up with his auto gun from long range in order to provide some sort of covering fire, but not much really happens for the most part. Nothing much just happens at that point. My friend Warlord Ace then activates CheapSkate, who then charged directly into Nerf number 1, and needless to say, he finished that guy off with a coup de grace, earning a critical injury on Nerf number 1, so ending also an experience point for my friend Warlord Ace in the process. Because he finished off number 1 so quickly, he does a 3-inch follow through and automatically engages Bloodrazor into close combat as well. So now both those guys will be fighting it out in the next turn. Death then spends a double movement for Sockhead to get to the top of the gantry walkway there, crossing the Slime River. And I think the reason why he did that is because he wanted to use Sockhead as a bullet magnet for the most part, so that way they concentrate fire onto him instead of the rest of his assault forces on the right-hand side. So the combat between CheapSkate as well as Bloodrazor didn't really go much of anywhere because both of them had already used up their actions already during the activation phase. However, Warlord Ace does send in Mega Man, who is a juvie who's armed with a last sub-carbine. He charged directly into Bloodrazor. Now the two of them do fight it out, but unfortunately for both of them though, they weren't able to land any blows at each other, so all they're really doing now is straggling, and they're just fighting against each other, trying to wound one another. Death then activates nerf number 2, who moves forward and opens up with his auto pistols, but unfortunate for him though, he was unable to secure any hits at all because he's just a horrible shot for the most part. So, desperate to take out the Witch, my friend then activates FNG, who's a juvie for the gang. He moves up and charges directly into Bloodraiser, so because that Bloodraiser and FNG get in kind of close combat, start fighting against each other. And in the end, FNG managed to take out of action Bloodraiser. He managed to put him in an out cold result for his close combat results, hitting him both times with his last pistols. So because of that, Bloodraiser does go out of action, and he ends up with an out cold result for his injuries. Meanwhile, my friend then sends up forward half-face, trying to move as quickly as he possibly can across the battlefield because he needs to start assaulting pressure on the right-hand side. And Tugs and Souljacks once again open fire, but because they had to hit the nearest target, they had to take aim and go directly towards Sockhead, and they both open up with Sockhead with their last guns. I forget which one of them does it, but one of them does manage to hit Sockhead, but Sockhead doesn't get injured. All he is just pinned right now, so he's just laying on the ground, just kind of absorbing the blow at this point. Meanwhile, Death then activates Gasser, who also does a double movement to go right next to half-face as they try to desperately cross the battlefield as quickly as they can. And then the unthinkable happens. My friend Warlord Ace activates Maddox, who moves his normal movement allowance into position. He takes aim with his rad gun, and he opens up with his flamer template against the entirety of that assault squad. He hits nerf number 2. I think he managed to hit Beaker as well, or I think it's the Alkaloid. I'm sorry, the Alkaloid, and he also managed to hit the nerf herder as well, knocking those guys down with a sheet of radioactive fire. And to make matters worse, he does manage to cause a serious injury onto the nerf herd, as well as inflicting a flesh wound. He also inflicts a flesh wound onto the Oculoid, as well as nerf number 2. So with that, we go directly to the end phase. As you can see, for the most part though, the Oculoid is still down. Same thing with the nerf herder. He does manage to get back on his feet again with a flesh wound, and everybody else is just okay for the battlefield. And here's an overhead shot of the battlefield after the end of turn 2. So as you can see here, the right-hand advance for the Dustmen is slowly collapsing on the right-hand side, and same thing on the left-hand side as well. These Dustmen are just having a really rough time of this campaign so far. Up to this point, they've lost every single one of their scenarios, and this makes it their 4th battle in our campaign, and already things are not looking very good for my buddy Death. So with the turn over with, for turn number 2, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and this time the Chaos Cultists managed to get the initiative on this one, so that part was kind of cool. My friend activates Roar, who then also activates Beaker, as well as nerf number 2. Now he does try to open fire with his heavy stubber, but unfortunately for him though, he missed his shots, wasn't able to do anything for the most part. So because of that, he then decides to charge in both Beaker as well as nerf number 1, who then charged directly into Maddox. However, in the combat phase, Maddox was an absolute madman, managed to put down out of action both Beaker as well as nerf number 2, putting critical injuries on both of them at exactly the same time. Oh, sorry, not critical injuries. Puts a critical injury onto Beaker and also puts an eye injury onto nerf number 2, all by his lonesome, netting himself a juicy amount of points at the same time. Unfortunately though, the nerf herder does manage to shoot as well as to hit Maddox, so because of that, he does go down with a serious injury as well as a flesh wound, so things are not looking very good for that fighter. But in response, Warlord Ace then activates Bustin' Nine, who takes aim with his plasma blast rifle, and he opens it with a plasma gun blast directly into the nerf herder. Not only does he hit and wound the nerf herder, but he also causes a hand injury as well from the nerf herder, so he loses 1 point to his weapon skill as well, and he goes directly out of action for that one. So, desperate to do anything, my friend Death decides to activate Hoodie, who then takes a long-range shot with his auto gun and opens up directly onto FNG, onto Mega Man, who's halfway across the battlefield. And not only does he manage to hit Mega Man, but he also manages to put him out of action as well, netting an eye injury onto Mega Man as well. So because that, Mega Man is suffering number 1, minus 1 point to his ballistic skill, and he goes directly out of action. Luckily for my friend Warlord Ace though, Tough Shakes as well as FNG both survive their cool tests, so they just kind of stand their ground for the most part. My friend then activates Tugs, who's next, who takes aim with his laser carbine and opens it directly across the battlefield, directly into Half-Face as well as Gasser. And he manages to cause a serious injury onto Gasser and also put a flesh wound with his rapid fire ability from his last carbine. So things are not looking very good for the most part. My friend Death then activates Sockhead, who actually spends a double movement going behind the Slime River, so that way he's no longer a bullet magnet for the rest of the fire coming from 9/11. And my friend then activates Soldiers, who also takes aim with his last sub-carbine directly into Half-Face, and he opens up with a rapid fire blast from his laser carbine. And not only does he manage to hit Half-Face, he also manages to wound him as well. So because of that, Half-Face is seriously injured and he's laying on the ground. He will need to roll up on the end of the phase to see exactly what ends up happening for him. Meanwhile, the Oculoid does manage to get back onto his feet again because he got pinned the last round. He spends a simple movement moving to the base of the culvert of the gantry walkway there, so that way he doesn't get shot at anymore. And because there's no more Dustmen, the rest of the phase just ends up going to my friend Warlord Ace. He then activates Chopper as well as the Rune Dog. Both those guys do open fire with their weapons, but unfortunately for them, they missed their shots, so not much happened over there. And Tough Shakes as well as FNG, they spend double movements to get to the other side of the culvert, and now they're on the Dustman side of the Slime River, heading directly into Half Face as well as with Gazer. So with the action phase over with, they go directly to the end phase. And as you probably guessed, my friend takes a bottle test for Roar, the leader of the Dustmen, and unfortunately for him though, he fails his bottle roll test, so because at the beginning of the next turn, he will need to roll cool tests for all of his characters to see if they actually stand their ground or if they flee. And Maddox does manage to get back to his feet again. This time he's carrying a flesh wound on him, so because that he has 2 flesh wounds on him, making him toughness 1. If he suffers another flesh wound, he will go out of action, so things are not looking very good for Maddox at this point. Meanwhile, Half Face as well as Gazer, they both roll serious injury tables, so all they can do is just lay on the ground just bleeding out, which is a really bad place for them to be at, because if my friend charges in Tough Shakes or FNG into them, they can pull a coup de grace on those guys and take those guys out of action very quickly. And as you can imagine, that takes us directly to the end of the game, because my friend O'Death decides to surrender because he doesn't lose any more gang members than he already has, and that nets another victory for the 9/11 of House Van Saar. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action report, because this battle report is now officially over. So starting with the injuries, my friend O'Death took some major damage on this one. Nerf number 1 as well as Beaker rolled critical injuries, and they both end up dying, so those guys get eliminated from the gang roster. Blood Razor Nerf number 2 rolled out cold results, and the Nerf Herder suffers a hand injury, learning -1 to his weapon skill. For the advancements, he does earn +1 with ballistic skill for War as well as +1 for Beaker. From his territory, he does earn 60 credits from his territory, as well as recruit a new Hellot cultist named Hoodie number 2, so that part was kind of cool. During his territory phase, he decides to activate the Dark Ritual using Beaker as the focus, and they earn the favor of Nurgle, rerolling them to once per turn to reroll 1 injury roll every turn. So they could definitely use that, because they also suffer a lot of injuries. At the same time, Beaker also earned 6 experience points, which is why he leveled up with his cool on that one. At the Merchants, they earn 10 credits from the scenario as well as 60 credits from their settlement, earning a grand total of 70 credits. They purchase flak armor and autogun for their brand new Helots named Hoodie number 2, and they recruit a brand new Helot cultist named Nerf number 3. And they equipped him with an auto pistol. For the reputation, they earn 1 point of reputation from the settlement, as well as 1 point of reputation for fighting against 9/11 for the very first time. However, they do lose 1 point of reputation for bottling out, bringing their grand total to 4 points of reputation. The Dustmen's current record is at 0 wins as well as 4 losses, and the new gang rating is at 1,035 points. Meanwhile, for 9/11, for the injuries, he only suffered 1, which was Mega Man. He suffered an eye injury, earning -1 to his ballistic skill. For the advancements, 5 members of the gang advanced. That was Bussanine, Maddox, Mega Man, Rune Dog, as well as FNG. Bussanine got +1 to his toughness, Maddox +1 to his weapon skill, Mega Man +1 to his cool, same thing with Rune Dog, as well as FNG. From their territory, they earn 1 point of reputation from their settlement, as well as 50 credits from the farm, and because of the number of dead bodies that took place in this scenario, they earned 80 credits from their corpse farm for Nerf number 1, as well as Beaker's bodies. And they also, in their territories, captured a Sludge Sea as well as their brand new territory for them. So because of that, every scenario, 3 members of the gangs carry choke gas grenades every single time they fight in the scenario. From the Merchants, he earned 130 credits from his territories in total. He also earned 10 credits from the scenario, as well as 5 credits from his stash, bringing a grand total of 145 credits. He spent all 145 credits hiring a new ganger named Ricochet, and they armed him with a suppression laser, mesh armor, as well as a power knife. For his reputation, he earned 1 point of reputation from his settlement, as well as 2 points of reputation from winning the scenario, and 1 point of reputation for fighting against the Dustmen for the very first time, bringing the 9/11's total reputation total to 12 points. His new record now is at 2 wins as well as 2 losses, and his new gang rating now is at 1,340 points. So that's good for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all these greatest news about our hobby. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.